The echo of small footsteps filled the grand federal courthouse in downtown Manhattan, as little Emma, barely 4 years old, tugged at the hem of Leslie's tailored blazer. "Mommy," she whispered, her wide eyes darting between the two women seated at the plaintiff's table. Dream gripped the edge of her chair, her knuckles white, while the judge, an older man with silver hair and a reputation for stone-cold rulings, leaned forward. Then Emma pointed directly at Dream and repeated louder, "Mommy Leslie. Mommy Dream." The entire courtroom held its breath as the judge's eyes widened, his voice catching in his throat for the first time in 30 years on the bench. What should have been a routine adoption hearing had just become the moment that threatened to dismantle everything Leslie Harrington and Dream Ellison had built over the last decade. In the competitive cutthroat world of Wall Street finance at Apex Capital, where billion-dollar mergers were won or lost on whispers and alliances, their secret had always been their armor. But now, with the child's innocent words hanging in the air like a verdict, that armor was cracking wide open. Leslie's mind raced back 8 years to the day they first met in the glass-walled conference room on the 42nd floor. She had been the new senior analyst fresh from Harvard Business School, armed with sharp numbers and sharper ambition. Dream was already a rising star, the only other woman in the mergers division who refused to smile through the boys' club jokes. Their first conversation had been pure business, dissecting a failing telecom deal. But the spark had been immediate, a shared understanding that the game was rigged, and only the ruthless survived. By the end of that first year, stolen glances in elevators turned into late-night strategy sessions at a quiet wine bar in Tribeca, where no one from the firm ever went. They never said the words out loud at first. It was safer that way. Leslie remembered the night it became official, the rain hammering the windows of Dream's small apartment in Chelsea. "If anyone finds out, we're done," Dream had whispered, her forehead pressed to Leslie's. "This city eats people like us for breakfast." Leslie had nodded, knowing the truth. Apex Capital's partners were old money conservatives who tolerated diversity only when it looked good on paper. Two women in love climbing the same ladder? Career suicide. So they built walls. Separate apartments, separate social circles, separate victories. Yet every win they shared in secret fueled them both. Leslie made vice president first, then Dream followed 6 months later. They celebrated alone with cheap champagne and promises that one day the world would be different. Then Emma appeared. It started as a PR stunt. The firm had sponsored a charity gala for foster children, and Leslie had been assigned to represent the company because it looked good for the upcoming partner vote. Dream came along as moral support, claiming she needed networking time. They had been circulating through the crowd when a social worker approached them, holding the hand of a quiet little girl with messy brown curls and eyes too old for her age. "Her mother overdosed last week," the worker explained quietly. "No family, no one. She's been in emergency placement, but the system is overwhelmed." Emma had looked up at them without fear and simply said, "Hungry." That single word hit Leslie like a market crash. She glanced at Dream and saw the same crack in the armor, the same unexpected pull. By the end of the night, they had volunteered as emergency foster parents. It was supposed to be temporary, a month, maybe 2, until a permanent home opened. But weeks turned into months, and Emma's quiet laughter filled the empty spaces they had both pretended didn't exist. Now here they were in court fighting for permanent adoption, while the promotion race at Apex Capital reached fever pitch. The head of mergers position was opening, and only one partner slot existed. Everyone knew it was between Leslie Dream and their rival Marcus Kane, a slick Harvard legacy with dirt on half the board. Marcus had already started circling, sniffing for weaknesses. Leslie felt her pulse thunder as the judge cleared his throat, finally finding his voice. "Miss Harrington, Miss Ellison, this changes the tone of the proceedings." He looked down at Emma, who now stood between them, holding both their hands. The courtroom reporters' fingers hovered over the keys, waiting. Outside, the media vans were already gathering, tipped off by someone inside the system. One photo, one leaked transcript, and their carefully constructed lives would burn. Leslie squeezed Dream's hand once under the table, the only signal they allowed themselves. Stay calm. Survive. But deep down she knew the real fight was just beginning, and the first casualty would be the one thing they had sworn to protect: each other. The judge's gavel came down softly, almost apologetically, granting a recess, so the court could review the new emotional testimony. Reporters surged forward, but security held them back. Leslie and Dream led Emma out a side door, their faces masks of professional calm, while inside everything screamed, In the private family waiting room, Dream finally let her shoulders drop. She said it. Out loud. Both of us. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Leslie paced the small space, her heels clicking on the tile. We knew this risk when we filed. The social worker warned us that full disclosure might be required, but I thought we could keep it quiet. Dream laughed without humor. Quiet? In this city? Marcus probably has someone in the clerk's office already sending him screenshots. Back at Apex Capital, the previous month had been a minefield. The merger with Sterling Bank was the biggest deal in a decade, and whoever closed it would claim the partner chair. Leslie had spent 16-hour days building the financial model while Dream worked the political angles, charming the board with quiet dinners and strategic leaks. They had coordinated every move via encrypted messages, never once slipping in public. But Emma had changed the equation. Late nights at the office became impossible when a 4-year-old needed bedtime stories. Leslie had started leaving at 7, claiming family obligations, which raised eyebrows. Marcus had cornered her in the elevator just last week. Heard you and Ellison are playing house with some foster kid. Cute. Hope it doesn't distract from the Sterling numbers. His smile had been all teeth. Leslie had smiled back colder. Family first, Marcus. You should try it sometime. But the seed was planted. That night after court, they returned to Leslie's sleek penthouse overlooking the Hudson, the one place they allowed themselves to be real. Emma fell asleep between them on the oversized couch, clutching a stuffed bear Dream had bought her the first week. Leslie watched Dream stroke the girl's hair and felt the familiar war inside her chest. Love for Emma was real. Love for Dream was everything. But the partner position represented 15 years of clawing through glass ceilings. We can't both win the promotion, Leslie said quietly. Dream looked up, her eyes steady. I know. But we can both keep her. The words hung heavy. They had always promised each other that ambition would never come between them, yet here, it was the invisible third person in their relationship. The next morning at the office, the tension ratcheted higher. The board announced an emergency strategy session for the Sterling merger, and Marcus made sure to sit directly across from them, dropping hints about personal distractions affecting team performance. Dream responded with flawless data, while Leslie watched her lovers face the woman who could read a room in seconds, now fighting to keep her mask intact. By afternoon, the first leak hit. A blind item appeared on a finance blog. 2 rising stars at Apex Capital cozying up to more than just deals? Sources say a certain adoption case has them playing happy family. No names yet, but everyone knew. Whispers followed Leslie down the hallway. Dream received a terse email from HR requesting a meeting about work-life balance. They met in the stairwell between floors, the only place without cameras. We deny everything, Leslie whispered. Dream's jaw tightened. Deny Emma? She's not a deal we can spin, Leslie. For the first time, the crack between them widened. Leslie felt it, the cold calculation rising in her chest, the one that had gotten her this far. Sacrifice the small things to protect the big picture. That evening she made the first truly ruthless move. She called Marcus under the pretense of discussing quarterly forecasts and casually mentioned Dream's divided attention with the foster child. It was a small betrayal, a seed planted. But seeds grow fast in corporate soil. Dream never knew. 3 days later, the board summoned both women for individual performance reviews. Leslie went first, her portfolio immaculate, the Sterling model flawless. Impressive as always, Harrington, the senior partner said, leaning back. But we hear rumors. Family commitments can be complicating at this level. Leslie smiled, the practiced one that never reached her eyes. My focus is 100% on closing Sterling, sir. Personal matters are handled. She left the room knowing she had just bought herself time. Dream's review came next. Leslie waited in the lobby, watching through the glass walls as her partner defended herself with quiet dignity. When Dream emerged, her face was pale. They asked if the adoption would affect my travel schedule for the London roadshow. I said no, but Marcus was in the room smiling like he already won. That night Emma asked for her bedtime story, the one about 2 princesses who ruled a kingdom together. Dream read it, voice steady, but Leslie saw the tremor in her hands. After Emma slept, they sat on the balcony, the city lights blurring below. I can't keep lying like this, Dream said finally. She's calling us both mom in public now. The social worker says full disclosure in court is the only way to secure permanent custody. If we hide, we're risking her future. Leslie stared at the skyline, the one they had conquered together. And if we don't hide, we lose everything at Apex. The partnership, the salary, the power to actually change things for kids like Emma. The argument was old, but the stakes were new. Dream reached for her hand in the dark, the only place they still touched freely. I love you, Leslie. But I won't sacrifice her. The words landed like a merger gone bad. Leslie pulled away, the calculation running again. Love or legacy? She chose silence. The next week brought the first real betrayal. Marcus leaked selective documents to the press showing Dream's early departures tied to family court appearances. The board called an emergency vote on team leadership for Sterling. Leslie knew the play. She could defend Dream and risk her own spot, or stay quiet and let the chips fall. In the boardroom, she spoke calmly. Dream is brilliant, but recent personal commitments have created gaps in coverage. I can absorb them. Dream's eyes met hers across the table, shock flashing before it hardened into something colder. The vote went Leslie's way. She won lead on Sterling. Dream was reassigned to a smaller project. That night, Dream packed a bag at the penthouse. You threw me under the bus to save yourself. Leslie didn't deny it. I did what we both would have done 6 months ago before Emma. The door closed softly behind Dream, and for the first time in years, Leslie cried alone. Emma woke asking for Mommy. Dream. Leslie lied for the first time to the child, telling her Dream had an important work trip. The lie tasted like ash, but the partner track was now hers alone. Or so she thought. The Sterling merger hit turbulence exactly as Marcus planned. Overnight, the market shifted, and the numbers Leslie had bet everything on started bleeding red. The board demanded answers. In the emergency meeting, Dream sat in the back row, reassigned but still required to attend. Their eyes met once. No warmth remained. Leslie presented revised models, her voice steady while inside panic clawed. Marcus pounced. Perhaps divided attention is the real issue here. He slid printed screenshots across the table, photos from the courthouse leaked by an anonymous source. Emma between them. The judge's emotional reaction captured in a grainy cell phone shot. The room went dead silent. Lesbian adoption? One older partner muttered. The word hung like smoke. Leslie felt the ground shift. This was no longer about numbers. It was about image. Apex Capital's conservative clients would flee. Dream stood slowly. The child is innocent. Our personal lives have zero impact on the deal. But the damage was done. The board voted to pull Leslie from lead and put Marcus in charge. Dream was offered a quiet exit package. Leslie watched it happen, the woman she loved walking out with dignity, while she sat frozen calculating survival odds. That afternoon, HR called her in. We need damage control, Harrington. Public statement distancing from the adoption narrative. Say it's a misunderstanding. The firm will support you if you play ball. Leslie stared at the contract they slid across the desk. Partner track intact. Bonus doubled. All she had to do was sign and publicly claim the relationship with Dream was platonic co-parenting only. No romance. No love. She thought of Emma waiting at home with the nanny. Thought of the life they had built in secret. Then she signed. Dream found out through a company-wide email. The statement went viral by evening. Leslie Harrington clarifies her foster arrangement is strictly professional collaboration with colleague Dream Ellison. No romantic involvement exists. Dream's phone lit up with the notification while she packed the last of Emma's things from the penthouse. She drove to Leslie's building, security already alerted not to let her up. Through the intercom, her voice was ice. You chose the firm. Keep the partnership. I'm taking Emma and filing for sole custody tomorrow. You can explain to her why both her moms disappeared. The line went dead. Leslie stood at the window watching Dream's car pull away, the city lights now mocking her victory. The partner announcement came the next morning. She was in. But the penthouse felt hollow. Emma's bear still sat on the couch. The court date for final adoption arrived 2 weeks later under a storm of media attention. Leslie arrived alone, her new partner title feeling like a crown of thorns. Dream entered with Emma's hand in hers, and a lawyer from a rival firm who specialized in LGBTQ family rights. The judge, who had choked up before, now looked exhausted. Given the public statements and conflicting filings, we need clarity today. Emma spotted Leslie across the room and broke free, running to her. Mommy! The single word shattered the tension. Dream didn't move, but her eyes burned with quiet fury. Leslie knelt hugging the child, feeling every camera flash like a bullet. The judge cleared his throat again. Miss Harrington, your recent corporate statement claims no romantic involvement with Miss Ellison. Yet this child clearly sees you both as mothers. Which is it? Leslie stood the room spinning. She could lie again, save the partnership, the life she had killed for. Or she could tell the truth and lose everything, including the daughter she had grown to love more than ambition. Dream watched her, the woman who had once been her everything, now waiting for the final betrayal. Leslie opened her mouth and the words came out unscripted. Emma is right. Dream and I are partners in every sense. The statement was a mistake forced by corporate pressure. I love her. I love our daughter. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Dream's eyes wide in shock, replacing anger. The judge nodded slowly, a small smile breaking through. Honesty at last. Petition granted. Emma is legally yours, both of you. Cameras exploded. Outside the courthouse, Leslie turned to Dream, expecting hatred. Instead, Dream simply said, "You finally chose us. Took you long enough." But the victory felt hollow. Apex Capital issued termination papers by noon. Marcus took the partner chair. Their careers were over. That evening in a small hotel room, the three of them sat together, Emma between them. Dream spoke quietly. "We start over. Smaller firm, maybe non-profit work. But no more hiding." Leslie nodded, tears finally falling. The losses were real, the boardroom doors closed forever, the power they had craved gone. Yet looking at Emma, calling them both mommy without fear, Leslie understood the true cost of every cold decision she had made. Some bridges burned could never be rebuilt. Months later, the new normal settled in a modest Brooklyn brownstone far from the skyscrapers. Leslie worked as a consultant for smaller startups. Dream took a position at a family law nonprofit, helping other women like them. The money was less, the prestige non-existent, but Emma thrived, surrounded by two moms who no longer hid. Still, the scars remained. Late at night, Leslie would stare at old Apex emails, the ones praising her ruthlessness, and wonder if the woman who signed that statement still lived inside her. Dream never mentioned the betrayal again, but sometimes her gaze lingered a fraction too long, as if checking for cracks. One evening, Marcus sent a cryptic text. "Heard you're doing charity work now. Cute. Sterling deal closed at double the value under my lead. Enjoy the minivan life." Leslie deleted it without reply. The power struggle had ended, not with the winner but with survivors. Emma started kindergarten proudly, announcing to her class that she had two moms. No one batted an eye in their new neighborhood. Yet Leslie knew the world outside wasn't always kind. Every playdate, every school meeting carried the echo of courtroom flashes and corporate knives. Dream found her on the back stoop one night, staring at the city skyline they had once owned. "Regrets?" she asked softly. Leslie pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent that had survived every storm. "Only the ones that almost cost me you both." They sat in silence, the kind that comes after war, when peace feels earned rather than given. Emma's laughter drifted from inside the house, calling for story time. As they stood to go in, Leslie realized the greatest lesson the cutthroat world had taught her. Survival sometimes meant losing everything to keep what truly mattered. The adoption papers, now framed on their wall, carried the judge's handwritten note. "Family isn't always traditional, but when it's real, it changes everything." True or false? In a world that forces women to choose between love and power, can anyone truly win without betrayal?